What's up guys, welcome to Daily Refinement. In today's video I'm talking about the fastest way to learn how to resell, how to make your sales go a lot faster. I actually have the answer for you in today's video. It's not clickbait, so please smash the like button, consider subscribing. We're in the car today for Reseller Car Talk. Let's get into it. So my sold method is start with quality, optimize your listings, lower the price or liquidate if it doesn't sell, and then discard and throw the item away if it doesn't sell, even after auctioning it. That's my sold method. But
What? I just watched the video of someone trying to convey a business idea of SOLD, and it's basically an acronym where the S stands for start with quality, and then optimize your listings, to L, lower the price and liquidate, and then D, discard or donate. What do you think of that?
That's an interesting approach, but it feels a bit defeatist, doesn't it? Starting with quality is solid, but optimizing your listings just to eventually lower prices and liquidate seems like it's geared towards short-term thinking. It doesn't encourage building sustainability or learning from the process. Discarding or donating at the end also implies you're cutting losses instead of finding better solutions for unsold inventory. What's your take? Does it resonate with how you see business?
I just think it's kind of ironic that it spells sold, don't you think?
Yeah, it's pretty ironic and kind of sad. It's like they're saying the soul of the business is just to churn through inventory and give up if it doesn't work. Not much soul in that strategy, huh? Feels like it's missing the part about building something meaningful or lasting. What would you add to it to give it more depth?
Okay, never mind. Thanks. What's going on, guys? Today on Analyzing the Advice, there is a very special lesson to be learned on what happens when you have a slightly misguided idea of what true expertise is. Now, as always on the show, we don't do this to cut down anyone in particular. We are critiquing the advice and not the advisor. Today's video is going to be Damien from maybe you guys know him from ResellLutions, right? Damien's a really cool guy. You know, I do these videos, and honestly, on a personal level, I think these are really nice people and they come from a very good place. So let me just show you what the video is about and let him introduce and speak for himself.
Do you want to see what terrible purchases look like from a six-figure seller? Check this out, because this is going to be fun. In this video, I'm going to show you 100 items that I just ended in my eBay Everything store so you can see what terrible purchases I've made in the past. Sometimes I think what happens is that people see someone like me on YouTube that's a six-figure seller and they feel like, you know, that guy's got it all figured out. Well, trust me, I make bad purchases just like everyone else. And let me say, I'm not going to go through the entire 100 items because that would take way too long. I'm going to skim through some of them and I'm going to stop and show you the more important ones or the more expensive ones that I thought were super cool that still didn't sell.
Okay, so real quick, this is the back end of his account, right? And I could already see that a lot of them have 0 views, right? Like the first one, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0. So obviously your item is not going to sell if nobody's seeing them, right? Because they're practically invisible items. So the first thing that he has is Halloween treat bags. And you guys really got to pay attention to the prices that he sets on this, because a small lesson to be really learned on this is that, like, he doesn't have free shipping on any of them, right? They're all, you know, a price and then the shipping, a price and then the shipping. Now, part of eBay best practices is to offer free shipping so that people don't have to do the math in their head. But ultimately, you still have to remember, people are not stupid, okay? It doesn't matter what the price is, they're going to sort it by the lowest price plus shipping, right? So even if you set an item at like $2 or something, if your shipping is around like $16, it's going to be all the way to the bottom along with all the other items that total around $18, right? So, you know, you'll see what I mean in a second.
Right here. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 listings of Halloween bags. Let's look at one of them. Here we go. I did sell quite a few of these. I was shipping them out, and of course, Halloween's over. I've had them for a little over a year and a half, and I did buy them for 10 cents each. and 10 cents for like a lot of 10. So they were like a penny. So I made some decent money, but I just need to get rid of them because they're just taking up space now.
Okay, so true, right? The margins on this one was excellent. He paid a penny for it and then he started selling it. But you still have to remember, okay, that every single time you go out of your way to put up a listing, that's still a single act of labor, right? So if you put up an item, like just took photos and listed it, an item that was, I don't know, $100 profit versus an item that's $2 profit, but you only paid a penny for the, for the $2 profit item, right? That's a 200% markup. Yeah, that's great. But at the end of the day, it's still a $2 sale in your pocket for the same amount of work that you put into photography and listing the item. Yeah. So we always have to keep in mind that you got to be very careful of sellers telling you that, like in the episode 2, where he recommended that, you could do one item at 500 profit, which is kind of absurd to me, but let's just say that existed, right? Versus doing 100 items at $10. Well, sure, that's twice the amount of money, but that's also 100 times the amount of work. So we always got to keep those numbers in mind where we're just throwing numbers around.
And look, I like retail arbitrage after the holidays, Christmas, Halloween, Easter, and such, but they won't always sell. You'll sell some of them, but not all of them. So just be careful if you're doing retail arbitrage. Here, let's look at this one. I'm keeping this. This is mine. Fire King Bread Loaf Pen Anchor Hawking.
I just think it's funny that, like, he's keeping it. He listed it. You went out of your way to, pick this thing up. If this was, a sudden impulse buy then for yourself, then just go ahead and impulse buy it for yourself. But ultimately, you guys can see that, he listed it for $9.93, and then the shipping on top of this thing is another $9.99. So we're talking about like, $20 here. Now, you also should know, right, that generally he likes to lower his stuff by a penny every single month, which I think is very vigilant and also additional work. But it does tell him right away off the bat that this thing was up on eBay for about like 6 months, right? Because if he started at $9.99, then 6 cents down to $9.93, then he had it for 6 months before he's just like, all right, this thing is not moving.
Anchor Hawking sells well, except the boring stuff doesn't sell, or even the ones that have some pattern on them. It just depends on the pattern.
Okay, so what he just said there, right? That anchor hawking sells, but just not like, okay, so this is the difficulty of just starting, right? Just jumping in and then doing eBay reselling and then figuring it out as you go along and trying to pick up expertise by doing it. All right. So the issue is this. You're always collecting surface level knowledge constantly, right? And you're doing it based off of, how do you say, isolated events, right? So because you haven't done it 10, 20, 30 times to constantly replicate the process, if he had like 20 units of an anchor hawking, right? And then all 20 of them blew out immediately, right? Or if you had 200 units of it and then slowly it moved out, right? You would know exactly the rate of sell and how you're able to sell it based on your abilities. You would know a lot of things because you would have data, actual, well-produced data to drive your decisions. This is just too anecdotal, to say the least, right? So this is what happened in his mind. He probably bought something anchor hawking before. I have no idea about kitchenware, okay? But this is exactly, I could hear it through experience of watching a beginner seller as a business professional, that he most likely bought something anchor hawking and then sold. And so he's like, yeah, anchor hawking sells, man. So I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to try it again. And then you find out that it doesn't sell. So here's the problem, right? What have you learned? What has changed? Well, I now know that the plain stuff, it doesn't sell. And then the fancy ones, they do sell. Is that true though? How do you know that the other one that you sold wasn't just a one-time fluke? How do you know it just wasn't like, okay, perfectly, there was one customer there and nobody else had it and the timing was good and whatever, and then you got rid of it. But had you had a second one, even if it was a fancy anchor hocking, it wouldn't have sold. So this constantly updates and changes your perception of every single item that you do. Now, if you're doing hundreds of items, you are rapidly niching sideways, right? And you have to keep all of these little things in your memory banks, as opposed to having expert knowledge in one particular field, where that expert knowledge would compound onto itself, right? So that once you deep dive into a certain niche, you would know many facts about one certain niche. While when it comes to this, you know little facts, surface knowledge, and it's scattered out everywhere, and it's just really hard to remember.
If it's not collectible, you're not going to sell it. I kept this and I used it to put things inside, like my dog sprays, because I'm not using it for baking, but I put dog sprays, dog towels and stuff, and it's in a part of the kitchen where the dogs, they go through the kitchen and they go out through the back door. So we use it as a storage space, which is great because it's pretty. And I mean, I can still wash it and use it if I need to, because it is great. It's anchor hocking. It's awesome.
Right. So you see that you could already tell, right, that he has locked in anecdotal knowledge, and you could just imagine what's going to happen the next time he comes around another something anchor hocking, right? I personally, I don't think he actually has profound knowledge in this thing, but he believes that he does. And this is going to cause him to maybe source it again and continue to make the same mistakes. So this is very dangerous. Okay. I'm going to jump ahead to another section of a video that I really, really want to highlight this example. Okay. So I think this is the section where he gets into the Dyson example, and this will even further highlight exactly what I'm talking about.
Dyson Parts. Let me show you this one. So Dyson Parts do sell. Not all of them sell, but they do sell, especially the ones that are necessary, like the canister. The big canisters, they break all the time because you're hitting them under the, like, say, under a chair when you're vacuuming, or somebody just kicked it. You know, one of your kids is a dumbass and broke it. So now you got to replace it. And you're not going to replace a $250 vacuum just like that. Most people aren't.
Right.
They want replaceable parts. So therefore, they go and get them. This is the one for, what is this? Oh yeah, this is for the mattress. It's an attachment to scrape up hair and whatever, get in between the cracks in the mattress, or like your sofas. And I have sold those before, like a bunch of different ones, but this one just didn't sell, so I'm getting rid of it.
Right. So here's the big issue about this, right? You picked up this item based on anecdotal knowledge of a isolated incident of selling the Dyson canister. So did you hear what he said in the beginning? Which is basically that, like, you know, I picked up Dyson Parts. You'd be surprised that Dyson Parts sell. So if Damien and I were good friends, right, I'd go with him to a garage sale or wherever he picked this thing up, and then he would be like, yo, you know, a Dyson Parts sell, bro. I'll be like, really? And he'll be like, yeah, you know, because I had a canister that sells, et cetera, et cetera. He would explain it to me, and I'll be like, okay, sounds good to me. And then, you know, we'll give it a shot. Here we are months later, and then it didn't sell, right? And at the same time, it's like I was hoping to be surprised because then I would learn something. But now that it didn't sell, part of me is kind of like, I'm not surprised either, right? When you look at a lot of the items right now on the screen that he sells, you're probably not too surprised that they didn't really sell. When you look at the amount of views is on here, right? 11470. So it's kind of low. It's kind of low, right? So especially for the zeros that are there, which is basically, you know, invisible. So what happens is, what do you do with this knowledge, right? You have this bit of information in your mind that says Dyson is good stuff. So what I'm going to do is that we're going to come back up top, and I'm just going to start running a whole bunch of items that he went through that didn't sell, so you could just see them, and we'll just go through a slideshow of it. Okay, and feel free to pause the video of anyone that you find, because all of the things that didn't sell, like all of his pickups or whatever, I just think were so funny, right? Like nothing, there's not a single thing I personally would have purchased, and I just keep thinking to myself, okay, maybe clearly he says that it's good, he's not picking it up for no reason, but then again, here we are 1 year later and none of these items sold. Okay, so just keep that in mind, not a single one of these items from this slideshow has sold. So coming back to my point, the thing about the Dyson Parts, all you have is that anecdotal evidence, and then you wrote it off as Dyson Parts sell. But then what happens is, okay, I bought this wide mouth attachment, and then that wide mouth attachment is not selling. Okay, so how do you update your memory banks now? Do you say something to yourself such as, okay, Dyson Parts sell, but just the canister, or Dyson Parts sell, just not the wide mouth attachment? So the next time he comes around to like some kind of garage sale, estate sale, whatever, savers, I don't know where do you go for stuff like this, but if he ever comes around it again and it's like a wheel or a hose or like some other part of a Dyson, he's probably going to pick it up because he still has that mindset that Dyson Parts sell. So this is what I mean by what happens when a lot of eBay gurus tell you to just go ahead, just do it, just jump in, and you don't actually have much knowledge, right? And what happens is that the way that you're absorbing things is way more different than had you studied up on them, especially, how prepared that you need to be when you're just out and about and you don't know what you're going to come across. So the best way that I could explain the business to you guys in the most layman terms possible, I would say would be through the lens of nutrition. Okay. So in the traditional model, what happens is that we are trying different items, right? So when you're trying different items, that's kind of like eating different foods and not really finding out what's healthy for the business and what's not healthy for the business, right? And in reselling, essentially, you're doing the same thing. If you go out and then you source 10 different items and then you put them up on your account and 3 out of 10 sells, you actually didn't know which 3 out of the 10 was definitely going to sell. But the ones that did, then you've realized that after the fact, right? So you're always in the past chasing. So you would find out that, okay, these 3 items sold, so that's healthy for the business because I made money, right? So the business made money. So those are healthy foods. And the ones that didn't sell, well, I can't really tell if they were junk foods or they were inedible, right? A junk food, in my opinion, would be something that either took a long time to sell or we had to liquidate and lower the price. So we're probably not going to do it again. An inedible item would have just been like an unsold item, just nobody wants it. We picked it up and it was bad. It's just completely inedible. So when you contrast that back to the traditional model again, what happens here? All right. Every single time we develop a certain item that, okay, it sells, right? We're going to sell it over and over and over, and then we're going to reorder that item and keep on repeating. So we retain good foods in our diet. Eventually, let's say we built up 10 solid items in our account that's constantly bringing in business for us. So when we try a new thing, that's only like 10% of us trying something. It might be junk, it might be inedible, it might be good. We don't know. But 90% of our diet is healthy, so we're okay. And that's why we don't have to work as hard in the traditional model once you have a healthy diet going on. But when you're in the reseller model, you're just stuffing everything into your mouth, right? Because everything is always in its trial and error phases, okay? You don't know it's going to sell until you bring it home. You have strong feelings that it will, but then again, so did he, right? And clearly the way that he initially speaks about his items, which is like Dyson Parts sell, bro, And the other item that he did with the bags, I bought them for a penny. You know, this is going to be, you know, great conversion because the profit. Like, you have all these ideas and your thoughts in your mind at the time, and then 1 year later, now you're here and it didn't sell. So again, right? If you're constantly just trying new things all the time, especially in the reseller model where you have a lot of one and done items. If you look at the screen, okay, on the screen capture over here, you could see that for all of his quantities on this aisle right here, okay, they're all singles, right? So the problem is, let's say these were healthy items that all sold. He can't get more. So it's kind of like you finally come across a carrot or an apple or a celery, and it's healthy and it's finally good for your business, but then you can't get more of it. That's no good. We have to find a way to make the company sustainable so that we're always doing this stuff and we're not just trying things all the time. Look, ultimately, if you're running a diet where 90% of the foods that you're eating is healthy, and then you just try new things every now and then, your account, which is your body, can sustain that. That's okay. We could take that. We could buffer that very easily. But if your whole business is ran under, right, just trying stuff, running through items, this one was good, this one didn't sell, back and forth, this one took a longer time to sell, then you're going to be in a bad spot, in the sense that, still like nutrition, right? If you eat a lot of inedible things and junk along with your diet and it's like all mixed together, you're gonna have to do a lot of exercise to work that off, don't you? So what is the exercise here? He would be in a position where he's doing all sorts of stuff, right? Some people believe in unlisting and relisting will do something to help get rid of it. Some people believe in, you know, monitoring it like this and then lowering by a penny. Some people will have to, you know, go through some liquidation or even try to run side garage sales themselves because they couldn't get rid of it on eBay. And then ultimately, you know, deleting, discarding, or donating the item. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work for going out, sourcing, you know, fixing up the item, taking pictures, coming back, and then doing all this stuff. So here I want to show you guys a clip of specifically what I'm talking about when it comes to the advice given on YouTube. So this is Becky Park. You guys have probably seen her before. I think she's really cool and she's really genuine. All right. I think her heart is in the right place and she tries to be as transparent as possible. I've watched quite a few of her videos, and she tries to, you know, just put everything up front. She totally has her cards on the tables, but I just want you to hear what she has to say.
The first thing that I would say is just start. I think that nowadays there are so many people who are experts at anything. If you name a topic, there are so many experts on that topic. And that's because the internet has been around for a while. People have been able to level up and build these big platforms on social media and stuff. And everywhere you look, no matter what the topic, there are 100 experts on that topic. And sometimes I think that it makes us feel like we don't have permission to start something because we're not an expert at that thing. But how do you think those experts got to be where they're at? At some point, they also had to just start. They had to start at the very beginning and they had to learn everything that they now know. And what they did that is different from where you're at is they just did that thing for years to become the expert. You're just at a different part of your journey than them. I think too many people are paralyzed by fear and they think that they have to know everything that there is to know about the thing before they're allowed to begin the thing. I say, just start. Even if you're like, but I don't know how to list. Just start. If you're like, I don't even know if this is a good brand, just list it. Like, just take the pair of jeans that have been sitting on the ground of your closet because they're too small on you and snap some pictures of them. Try to figure out how to get it listed on a platform and just see what happens.
Okay, let's come back up to FaceTime and let's talk about this for a second. So Becky Park, very cool chick. All right. On paper, I agree with what she's saying, okay? It sounds very positive, but the issue with this particular advice is that it puts you in a very rebellious state, right? Don't let other people tell you what to do, you know? If you want to start a business, then just start. sounds good, sounds empowering, sounds very positive, okay? Oof. But the issue is this. As a business professional, I would advise you this, okay? If I was your brother, if I was your dad, if I was like, you know what I mean? This is what I would teach my kid, all right? That when it comes to expertise, there are many perspectives of expertise, correct? So there are at least, okay, 4 lenses of scrutiny when it comes to understanding product knowledge and stuff, okay? For example, you have it from the lens of the seller, the lens of the buyer, right? The lens of the reviewer, and the lens of the scholar. Do you have all 4 when you go into these items? Especially when you do reselling, you just go out there and then you're doing all these things, right? You don't necessarily know what item is that you're going to come across. And even if it was in clothing, you have all these little anecdotal data, right? Of like, this brand's good, but not this one, but this one is good, then this one's trendy, but only when it's in red, but not when it's in yellow. And it's so much to keep up, okay? When you study up on something to become an actual expert in it, it would look something like this. Let me give you a quick walk in the park of the business mindset, all right? When it comes to actually knowing something. The first thing you would do is maybe go to Amazon or eBay and look up the item that you're interested in. And then you would do this, okay? You would look at how this item is currently being presented. Why did they take the photos the way that they did? If it's just some plain old snapshots of studios or whatever, then that's not very useful to you. You need something of a little bit more substance, right? You want to catch exactly where the skill is in the marketing. All right. And then you want to see exactly what the reviews and the feedbacks are. Is this even a good item? Okay. Because if there's got a lot of reviews, it's got good feedbacks and stuff, most likely it's selling pretty decent. Then you want to go over to the YouTube reviewers and see how popular it is that people are talking about as far as reviews, because that's what influencers are. They drive the traffic. Now you have to ask yourself, okay, this seems like a good item. Do I want to commit to scholarly knowledge or not on this thing? Okay, because ultimately, if you don't know how it's made, how it works, how it's whatever, all of this knowledge is going to be very helpful when you want to start developing an item that actually contributes value into the system, into the market. Because look, here's the biggest difference between a traditional item and a private label item and a resale item. You're selling essentially what other people used to sell, right? You get your hands on their goods and then you're selling what they're selling. Exactly what kind of value are you able to provide when you take somebody else's thing and then sell it? You could bundle it with stuff. You could take less money for it. Hopefully it's a rare find. That's about it. That's about it. It kind of stops there, right? If you actually had true expertise in a particular item, you would know quite a few things. Because if you studied up on this, the scholar lens, which is the technical knowledge or the mechanical knowledge or the fundamentals of this niche, this topic, this item, all right? You know how to alter stuff, how to change stuff about it. You know what to do. Okay, so on the other side, with the seller, the buyer, and the reviewer, this gives you 3 interesting perspectives, right? The seller gives you the marketing perspective, the buyer gives you the pain perspective, and the reviewer gives you the perspective of excellence. What do I mean by this? When you have scholarly knowledge in your product, in your niche, you're very easily able to differentiate the real reviewers from the shill reviewers. You know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of guys out there who review different products or whatever, and they're just presenters. They don't really give that strong of opinion here nor there or too critical or anything like that. They just say, wow, look at this thing. a lot of food reviewers are like that. Have you noticed that these days, like on TikTok and YouTube, when they talk about like the restaurant that they go to, this is an excellent place. They don't talk about the price. They don't talk about whatever. They're just like, it's so delicious. And then that's it. It's over, because they're a shill, right? They're trying to promote the restaurant. They're trying to promote the product. They don't want to say anything bad because they want to continue getting more free stuff. They want to continue to have access to stuff. And then there are the reviewers that will boldly say, I don't care, I will not sacrifice the integrity of my channel, and I'm just going to start calling a spade, right? If anything, this channel is very much like that. I'm not going to just, sell you on reselling and it's a great thing when clearly it's not. Okay, so when we come back to understanding the scholarly knowledge, we're able to differentiate who the real YouTube reviewers are. So now we know, based on what they're saying about other products, we have an idea of how to wow them, because eventually when you develop a product and it does well and it's on the market for long enough, it's going to get reviewed by the public. So why not have that, groundwork already at least in the back of your mind? Because the reason why you have to do this, right, is because studying up and becoming an expert is free. You didn't spend any money yet. Can you imagine all the money that Damien has already spent based on anecdotal evidence of isolated sales? So Dyson Parts are good, this is good, that's good, and then to find out, okay, it's not good, but let's make a funny video about it anyways. You know what I mean? Shout out to Damien. I really like that guy. You know what I mean? If you're watching Damien, I think you're a really cool guy. So now the thing is, we go back to understanding the pain points of the customer, right? The pain points of the customer, you could either go to Reddit posts or forums, or possibly 1 or 2 star reviews on Amazon, and just read what people have to say, right? Ignore just like regular naysaying or whatever, but really focus on any kind of negative, constructive criticism, because that is the pain that you need to be listening to. Okay, I see what the issue is, right? It could be as simple as, I wish it came in pink. And maybe you would just release a pink version and you would do pretty good, Then it would be from the lens of the seller, right? The marketing aspect of it. Look at how other people are selling this stuff, because because once you get into this market, they're going to be your future competitors, right? So why did they sell it this way? Can I put my spin on it, or should I just take a page out of their playbook? Let me see how they're listing this stuff. What is the order of their titles, how they're keywording things or whatever. And maybe at first, I'm not too sure how to do it, but I see that it works for them. And let me take a page out of their playbook and try this out first before I am proficient enough to start, adjusting and tweaking things on my own. This is how you start going from zero to hero, right? People got to understand that there are many levels to expert knowledge. There's still many levels in between. Think about it. You go from novice, right, to intermediate, then to proficient, then to expert, then to a master or something like that. I'll redo this class again. I'll do a formal class on it, put it that way, right? As opposed to just, talking in this video. But the point is that this is why when you go out into the world and these reseller gurus tell you just go source good items. But have you ever noticed that what's a good item? What do you mean it's a good item? Well, items that sell, duh. Okay, well, how did you know the item was going to sell until you tried it? Okay, as you dig deeper with this like Socratic method of asking them questions or stuff, you'll start to see them start avoiding the questions, right? Okay. So how are you supposed to do a good item? That's the big problem. When you think about the traditional model, right? It's not so simple that they're doing good items. They're doing proven items. There's a big difference between a good item and a proven item, because when an item sells and it makes you money, good boy, right? Now it's a good item. If it didn't sell, that's a bad item, right? But when it's a proven item, you don't even have to look at it. It's just selling in your sleep. I don't even have to pay attention to it because it's already proven. We already sold 200 units of it before. Why would it not sell 200 units later? You see what I'm saying? This is why I encourage people to pivot away from the reselling over to the traditional model. It's not that reselling doesn't work. I've never made that criticism. It's not that, okay? It's that it's very inefficient. It's a lot of work to put in there, and it drives people down the wrong path. The scariest thing that you have to keep in mind when it comes to reselling is the initial find and flip, because the first time you're able to sell something on eBay, it's affirmation that I can do this. So what happens? You do it again, and then you do it again, and you do it again. The problem is the reseller model drives you down a path of this kind of repetition, when you really need to go down a path of traditional business where you're actually building equity. You're actually retaining all the success when you're actually having a healthy diet. So that's the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. And as always, take care, and I'll see you next time.
I have another method that's faster, and that is the 1-3-1 method, which is you start with one problem, you come up with 3 solutions, and then you can either ask me or ask somebody you know for one recommendation.
Your method? Do you mean this method?
The 1-3-1 rule states this: anybody that comes to you with a problem, you ask them, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Then the 3 part of the equation is, what are the 3 options you've evaluated? And then the last one is, what's your one recommendation? One time I had an HR guy, Adam, he's like, I'm stressed out. We got to hire 12 people in the next month. So I said, what's your 1-3-1? He's like, dude, I don't have time for this. And I was like, how much time do you need to figure it out? He said, give me a day. Next morning, 10 a.m., text me, I'm good. He didn't need me, because once he started looking at it, he solved the problem. And what happens is, when you hold yourself accountable to that process, is that you will eventually wake up one day and have an organization where you are not needed. I build the people build the business.
I agree. That was solid advice.